friends, it's Carrie with Rockin' G Farm. Well, today we are in the kitchen on the farm and I am going to help you make your home a modern homestead. So today we are going to make pie crust from scratch and a raisin pie from scratch. So if this is your first time joining me, make sure that you click the subscription button. It's for free. And then there's a little icon of a bell right beside it. Make sure you hit that bell and that will notify you every time that I upload a video to my channel. And also, if you would comment below and share my videos, that helps my channel grow. And I would so appreciate your support in doing that. So guys, let's go on and start with our pie crust because we need to get it in the refrigerator to chill while I'm making the filling for that pie. So I have had 1 cup of butter in my freezer so that it will be hard and firm and very, very cold. The most important thing to remember when you are making pie crust is to keep all of your ingredients as cold as possible. So what we're going to do now, I am going to shave my butter. So you can either cut it into chunks if you're going to be using a food processor, but if you do not have a food processor and are going to be mixing up the pie crust with your hands, go ahead and shred your butter because it makes it a lot easier to incorporate with the flour that we're going to be adding for our pie crust. So this is all I'm going to do. I'm going to shred all of this up. So it might take me just a little bit, but I'm going to make sure that I do it quickly and then get this butter back into the freezer while I finish it measuring out the rest of my ingredients. Now I've got all of my butter shredded. It was 2 sticks of butter, which will equal 1 cup of butter, unsalted butter. And I'm just going to put that into my bowl right here and put that into the refrigerator so it can remain cool while I measure out the other ingredients for my pie crust. One tip on this is if you are going to be making a lot of pie crust, what I do at times, I go ahead and shred up some butter and keep it in a container in my freezer so that whenever I need to make a quick pie crust, I don't have to worry about shredding the butter. I already have some shredded butter made up and saved in the freezer. So that is something that you can do if you think that you're going to need that, and it will make it a lot easier for whenever you do want to make a pie crust and you don't have a lot of extra time. It's always planning and thinking ahead, and we'll get this right here into the refrigerator while I do the rest of the ingredients. Okay guys, I'm going to remind you, whenever we are cooking or baking with flour, you need to always make sure that you sift your flour. That makes sure that your flour is light and airy with no clumps. The more compact your flour is, the heavier your baking item is going to be. So we have got my flour right here, and I'm going to put it right into my sifter. I'm going to put my cup measure right underneath my sifter, and I'm just going to sift my powder, I'm going to sift my flour right into my 1 cup measurement. And if you can see how clumpy that is right there, and then how airy this is right here, that's very important when you are cooking with flour or baking with flour to sift. Even if your package says pre-sifted, they might have already pre-sifted it at the manufacturing facility, but during the process of shipping and buying and bringing it home and putting it up, that all compacts down and gets all that air that they sifted into it out of there. So that's why it all compacts down, and we're just making it airy again with our sifter. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is you can get like the edge of your knife or edge of the spoon, and we're just going to go back and forth and get the top of that flour off, because that would put more flour into our recipe than what it calls for. So we want to make sure we have a perfectly measured 1 cup of flour in this one. We are doing 2 1/4 cups of flour. So now I'm going to go ahead and do my 2nd cup of flour. Okay, so that's 2 cups. And now I need 1/4 cup. And since this is already sifted, I'm going to lightly pick it up and gently put it into my measuring cup. And then I'm going to go back and forth and make sure I have a level 1/4 cup of flour. So here is 2 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour. Behind us, get it out of our way. I'll wipe my hands off with my little hand towel here. And then I am going to add 1 teaspoon of salt. And you always want to measure your salt out away from your main ingredients in case you accidentally spill over, because you know, if you put too much salt in anything, it's going to ruin it, and we certainly don't want to ruin our pie crust. So here is 1 teaspoon of salt. I'm going to shake that over my flour. Let me get my whisk. I'm just going to whisk my salt in with my flour. Make sure that it is really good and incorporated. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to get my butter out of the refrigerator, and I'm going to add my 1 cup of shredded butter. I know that this looks like a lot of butter, but you have to remember it was 1 cup because we had 2 sticks of butter. That equals 1 cup. But when I shred it, it makes it real light and fluffy and makes it look like it's a lot more butter, but I'm still going to use what is in this whole bowl because it is really only 1 cup of butter. So I am going to just go ahead and get a spatula. I'm going to leave the rest of that out, and then I'm going to use a pastry blender. This is a pastry blender. As you can see, it has little, I don't know, edges on here, and that will go in, and that will incorporate that butter to cut it up into even smaller pieces and incorporate that into my flour. This is what you can use if you don't have a food processor. It's really super easy. You can get these anywhere. This one is a Pampered Chef. You can probably buy them anywhere, but anybody who knows me and has been watching my videos knows that I'm a Pampered Chef snob. I love Pampered Chef, and the majority of my kitchen is Pampered Chef. I don't sell Pampered Chef. I don't get anything for, well, if I have a party, I get stuff for free, but I've been married for 28 years, and the majority of my kitchen is Pampered Chef. Love it. So let's get on and start we're going to be, this is called cutting in your butter with a pastry blender. And all I'm doing, as you can see, I am just pressing in my butter, and I'm making that butter into smaller pea-size pieces. And we are wanting to make this mixture real crumbly. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to make sure that I get my butter really in there, and then we're going to add some ice cold water. So this looks really good. It looks like it's mixing well. The butter is cutting into smaller pieces. If you need to, you can just push that butter back off the bottom of your pastry blender. Super easy. And I'm just kind of pressing down and twisting my wrist. So press and twist, press and twist, press and twist. Okay, now I'm going to add the rest of this butter. All right, guys. And the one good thing about this is I'm not using my hands, so my butter stays cold. So I'm going to go back in, and I'm going to finish up pressing down the butter into the flour and twisting, pressing and twisting, pressing and twisting, and getting all of that butter incorporated into my flour. Super easy, super easy, easy peasy. You don't have to have fancy equipment to make a homemade pie crust. Just have to have a little patience and just practice. Super easy. I am going to put my camera up here so you can see the consistency of this flour and butter mixture, because this is what you want your butter and your flour mixture to look like. Let me get up here. Let's see if we can do that. And see how it's all kind of cut into little bitty balls. And that's what you want. So now the next thing that is very important, we are going to add very slowly up to possibly 7 to 8 tablespoons of ice cold water. But you want to add that only 1 tablespoon at a time, because you do not want your flour mixture to become too soft and doughy. This is supposed to be light and airy, just like this, to where it just barely clumps together. Okay, so here is my spoon. Here's my ice cold water. I'm gonna go just 1 tablespoon at a time. This does take a little bit of time, but if you do add too much water, you're gonna have to start over. So it's better to start with just 1 tablespoon at a time, and then go from there. And now you can see it's starting to kind of stick together just a little bit more. That's what we want. Get that off of there. Okay, I am gonna need another tablespoon of water, ice cold water. And I'm just pressing and twisting my wrist with my pastry blender. See how it's starting to stick together? That's exactly what we want it to do. Just barely sticking together. Need just a little bit more water. This is tablespoon number 3. Now, do not go by what I'm doing with the water. You will need to do that according to how your flour and butter mixture are doing. So, I might need 6 tablespoons of water. You might need 4. It just depends. And there's no rhyme or reason to that. It just depends on how your flour mixture starts sticking together. Okay, so I'm going to do something different now. You can continue to do yours in the bowl, but this makes it just a little bit easier for me, and this is how I kind of like it. So what I've done, I went ahead and got it to where it's kind of a consistency like this, which that's what we're looking for. We're wanting it when it goes together, we want it to kind of stick together like that. Still falling apart a little bit, so maybe a half of a tablespoon more. So that would 1, 2, 3. I think that this would be like 3.5 tablespoons. So what I'm gonna do, I'm pouring out my mixture onto my pastry sheet. I don't know, what is it called? My pastry, I'm gonna say my pastry pad, so that I'm not right on top of my island, and I'm just going to start kind of mixing this in. I know I'm gonna have to have some more water, so I'm just gonna do just a little bit. I don't want to do, so that was probably a half of a tablespoon, and so I'm just gonna kind of pull this in. So if you've had a stressful day, making pie crust will be easy. Will help relieve some of that stress, just because you get to push down and work with your hands a little bit. See how this is starting to come together? That is exactly what we want it to do. But on another note, you don't want to over mix it. If you over mix it, it will get real doughy, and it will taste more like a pancake instead of a fluffy pie crust. And you can see how this is going. I've got my recipe on my computer, and my computer's fixing. There we go. It's fixing to go. Okay, so there we go. I think maybe just a little bit more water. So we did 3.5. Let's do another half here. And you can see how it kind of is real crumbly. You want your pie crust to be crumbly. You don't want it to mix together real heavy like a cake mix. This is it. This is perfect right here. So we did probably a total of 4 tablespoons of ice cold water. So that is perfect. So you just kind of keep mixing it together. We are in there. Actually, guys, I think I'm gonna have to make another one, because with the raisin pie, I wanted to do one on top. They said that the recipe said you could cut this into 2. This is just gonna take a bottom. So I'm gonna have to make another pie crust. So I'm gonna have to go to the store. I ran out of butter. I went to the store and got a whole pound of butter, but now I need more. Should have gotten 2 when I was there. That's what I thought. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna show you. This is it. You kind of see, let me come over there and show you the consistency of my pie crust. See, it's just mixed together. It's not anything wetter than that, and your pie crust will taste like pancakes, and we don't want it to taste like a pancake. So what I'm going to do now, I am going to put this. It's mixed fine. That's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to mix it anymore, because if the more you mix it, the less fluffy it will become. So I'm going to wrap this up in some saran wrap, and I'm going to put it in the refrigerator and let it chill while I go and make the second batch for the top of my pie. So if you do make this raisin pie, just remember you're going to have to make 2 batches, or you're going to have to double the recipe. But that's okay. See how quick and easy that was? Perfect pie crust there. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of flatten it out. You can either use a rolling pin, or you can just use your hand like I am to kind of make it into a round disc, kind of like a little plate or a little frisbee. That just makes it a little easier once you get it out of the refrigerator when it is cold. Makes it a little bit easier to use your rolling pin on it and get it flat Okay guys, I don't know. I cannot find my saran wrap. So I'm just going to wrap it up in some wax paper. It will be fine because I am not going to be storing it in the refrigerator for an extended amount of time, just until I get the second pie crust made and the ingredients for the raisin filling for this pie. So it will be just fine wrapped like this in the refrigerator. So let me go do this. I'm gonna have to buy some more butter real quick. So I will be right back with the raisin filling. Okay friends, we are ready to make our pie filling, and this is going to be our raisin pie. And I know you're thinking, ooh, raisin pie. Oh, try it just one time, and I promise that this will be one of your family's favorite pies from now on. So what we're gonna do now, I've got a little sauce pot, that sounds funny. I've got a little sauce pot, and I am going to put 1 cup of water into my sauce pot. Let me get my raisins. And then we're going to add 1 cup of raisins to this water. And then we are going to let this water start to boil, and we are going to boil it for just a couple of minutes, but we want it to come to a really high rolling boil to make sure that these raisins become soft. And I'm just gonna add just a little bit more because I like a lot of raisins in mine. Okay, so now I'm gonna bring this over to my stove, and we're going to boil these raisins until they come to a real high rolling boil. Okay, as you saw, the raisins were boiling, so they're real nice and hot. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to drain the water off of the raisins. Then I'm going to add 1/2 of a cup of butter, which is 1 stick. And I'm going to add 1 cup of granulated sugar. And if this doesn't stay hot enough to melt your butter and mix the sugar in together, we can just put it back on the stove top. Okay, so that butter is starting to melt real good. Now I'm going to add some cinnamon, and I'm using 1 1/4 tablespoons of cinnamon. So here is, whew, that smells good. So here's 1 tablespoon, and then 1/4 of a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. And then I'm going to put 1 tablespoon, 1 heaping tablespoon of flour. And I'm still mixing that all in. Some of my butter's not melted, so I'm just gonna cut it down into smaller chunks so it'll melt for me. And of course it will melt once it gets into the oven. Then I'm going to add a pinch of salt. So we'll just kind of do that, just a little pinch of salt, which would probably be about 1/4 of a teaspoon. Just gonna mix that in really well also. I have a very large pie plate. I might have to get a smaller pie pan. Everything is melted in together. And now I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla. You always want to put your vanilla in towards the end of it so that it won't scorch from all of the heat. And the last thing we're going to do, we're going to add 1 egg. And then we're going to mix that in really well also. So that is our pie filling, and now I'm going to roll out the crust for the pie. I'm just gonna put just a little bit of flour on here so just it doesn't stick. I have been in the refrigerator chilling for about an hour now. Let me see if I can find a smaller pie pan. This is a deep dish pie pan and it's really big, and I forgot this makes a small pie. So let me find a smaller pie pan. Okay, I've got another pie pan. As you can see, there's difference between deep dish and just another pie. So when you don't have a lot of filling, you would want to use one that's not a deep dish, and that's what we're making now. If you wanted to make this a deep dish, I would double all of the ingredients for the pie filling, but since we're not doing that, I'm just gonna do the smaller, more shallow pie pan. Okay, let's get ready to rumble. Yeah. I get so excited when I do this. And then when I get to say, hey, I made it all from scratch. That's even better. So what we're gonna do now, I am just going, let me put my pie pan down here and I'm gonna measure it. Looks like it's about 10 inches. So I'm just gonna roll this out to 10 inches and I'm gonna try to make sure that I keep it even all the way around. So you'll just kind of go to one side, and you can flip it. So let's just watch me do this a little bit and you'll learn. You don't want to just kind of keep in one spot, because if you do, it can make that one spot real thin. We don't want to do that. I'm a little thicker back here than I am up here, so I'm going to try to push from this side and just push over that way to get this thicker side flattened out. Let me show you a little trick. When you're trying to get your pie crust into your pie pan, you just kind of very lightly kind of fold them over. And I'm not going to have to quarter fold. I'm just going to bring that right over, bring my pie pan out, and then you gently fold it back. And then just kind of start pressing. Let me show you. Just kind of start pressing it down gently to fill all the way into the edge of the pie pan. Just do it real soft, real gently. And you kind of see how this pie crust is kind of falling apart. That's exactly how you want your pie crust, because that means it's really fluffy, and with the butter in there, it's going to burst open with the steam in the oven and just make this light and fluffy crust. So awesome, awesome. Okay, so as you can see, I've got all of that in. I've got my edges pushed into the corners of the pie pan. Make sure there's no gaps in there so where it can pull apart and break. We don't want that. We want it in there real good and tight. Let me get a knife. We're going to cut the edges. So you're just going to get a knife. You're going to go around the edges and just cut off the edge. Super, super, super easy. Just letting the edge of the pie pan be your guide. Okay, so there is our pie crust. Okay, so this right here I am going to make into another ball, and we are going to use some of this on top of the pie to make a little bit of lattice work a little bit. Might not be a real elaborate lattice work, but just a little bit of a lattice work. And I don't know, I'll see about using that second pie crust, but we're gonna do this. Reminds me now, I need to set my oven to preheat to 350 degrees, which I should have already started that so that it would be completely ready when I was done, but I forgot. So let's start this oven at 350. Let me go ahead and try to spread this out. Now, these are what's going to be my little bit of lattice work. If I don't have enough here, I'll go ahead and use that second pie crust. I probably am gonna need it, but we'll see. Our pie filling into our pie pan. This type of pie is extremely wonderful. So just put some vanilla ice cream on the side with a hot piece of pie. It is amazing. So let's go ahead, and I'm just going to try to do a little bit of lattice work. I'm not great with lattice work, so I'm just going to kind of put a couple of pieces there and just kind of let them hang back. No longer pieces. It might just be a little straight lines, who knows, we'll see. Lay these on top. We'll pull these down. And then that way you don't have to weave. We'll put another one right here from one of these, but you can kind of see, easy peasy. You don't have to do lattice work. We'll just lay it straight across. That's probably the best thing to do when we're just learning. A large one there. We'll put one right there. And we can put this little one right here. And there. Now, everybody will think that you slaved hard on this lattice. How to do the easy peasy edges. You can just pinch them with your finger like this and just push them in. It's like you're grabbing up the pie crust and pinching it in between your fingers. And then you want to make sure that when you do that, you're pressing down on the outside edges of the pie pan. That way it makes it stay connected to the pie pan. This is just an added pretty, make it a little bit beautiful. Or you can get a fork. Let me show you. You could get a fork and you could just press it down like this and just make indentations with your fork. You could do that. That's really easy. So let me show you those up close. So this is the indentations with the forks. And then this is the when you pinch it with your fingers. So there's the indentations. And then we have just the pretty little fake lattice work. Make everybody think that you worked hard on it. Okay guys, I heard the timer go off for our preheat, so we're good. And some of you might wonder what this little metal thing was. Well, I do not like my edges on my pies to get crusty or too crispy, and usually they always do. I don't know if anybody who doesn't get really extra crispy edges on their pies. So I bought this, of course. It's a set of 2 from Pampered Chef. Yay! And it just sits on the edge like this, and it protects the edges of your pie crust so that the center gets done and the edges of your pie crust does not burn. I'm gonna do just a little bit of an egg wash on the top of this, and it'll just make it shiny and pretty because we want to make it beautiful. So let's just do that real quick. Tad of water like that. I'm gonna get my fork, scramble my egg. A brusher. I like the silicone because I don't like the fibers falling out of the ones that are not silicone. So all you're gonna do is get the egg on your brush, and you're just gonna tap it on the areas of the crust. This is going to give this that professional look when you have when you see a crust at a bakery and they are real shiny and you're like, geez, how'd they do that? This is what they do. They do an egg wash. It's a little bit of egg, a little bit of water, and that makes it shiny. And it gives it a nice golden look instead of letting that crust that is on top and showing from being too burnt or looking too dry. This just makes it pretty and gives it a more polished look. All right, so I'm gonna put this on the edge, and I'm gonna put it in the oven for 35 minutes or until the top is golden brown. So we'll be back in 35 minutes. Look how flaky that is. Look at that. Look how flaky. You can see those crumbs right there. That is flakiness from the crust. It doesn't look like a professional, but it sure does taste good. All right, friends, it is done. What a wonderful day. I made a wonderful pie today. I didn't have just vanilla ice cream, so I had to settle for cookies and cream with my raisin pie. But guys, thanks for joining me today. And make what you have beautiful.